we have some emerging developments involving Noni Madueke and Arsenal. My friends, we got a lot of big scoops to get through today. I'll be discussing that big story as well as the updates on Mohamed Kudus, Jamie Gittens, and some interesting links on Kenan and Yildiz. So I hope you guys enjoy. Hit that like button. Let's try and get 2k likes for the video this summer. But before I continue on, today's video was brought to you by OneFootball. Download OneFootball and stay up to date to all things Chelsea in this summer's Club World Cup. But don't even use the app exclusively for how we're doing in the tournament. Stay up to date to the entirety of the Club World Cup. Get your fixture news, updates, stats, plus a host more. OneFootball really is the best companion app to have if you're a football fan, and it only gets better every single season. So if you guys want to get it to try it out for yourselves, use my link below in the description and scan the QR code on screen as well. Thank you to OneFootball for sponsoring today's video. And my friends, we discuss the interesting reports now involving Noni Madueke. Now, the big suit came from Matt Law today, and he reveals that at the moment, Madueke is part of the radar of targets that Arsenal are looking at right now. Now, this summer, Arsenal needs winger reinforcements. That's been the big thing. They've missed out on Nico Williams. They're missing out on big targets right now. And for me, it's quite obvious that they're getting wins, that there is a big possibility that Noni Madueke could be bought this summer. Now, in terms of this news, Matt Law, of course, naturally in his article states that he's not being categorically put up for sale just yet. But obviously the news is circling. There's clearly confidence from interested parties that something can be done for Madueke. We know that now Arsenal are in the mix. United have had soft interest. Newcastle have had long-term interest in the player. And if you guys have been watching my videos, listen, I'm not here to say I'm like the transfer insider. I explain the context around how I get news too often. But if you remember from I think 2 days ago, I revealed that, of course, there's a big possibility we would be open to Noni's sale. Now, Maresca isn't necessarily as impressed with his winger options as he'd like to be, but I do think this summer the club are trying to obviously get stronger options for him. Jamie Gittens, I'll discuss that story later on. Esteval Willian has emerged, he's here. Neto grew in prominence as last season came to an end. And naturally, I think we need to get another upgrade signing, which I'll discuss in the follow-up story on Mohamed Kudus. I'll be honest, I feel a bit weird to see Noni playing for another club this season, but it's really starting to feel like there's a big possibility that Noni could be out the door. Now, in terms of valuations I'm hearing, figures between 40 to 50 million could be enough to get this deal wrapped up and over the lines. Realistically, I can't see Noni, with how he's living his life and his motion and his movements, being too keen on making that move up north to Newcastle. Yes, professionally for his career, he'd be down, but for Arsenal, you're staying in London. You know a lot of your teammates already. But I guess the only thing that you'd have to think about is, would you feel comfortable competing alongside Saka? And would you feel comfortable right now in your career being that utility winger that can sometimes play games on the left-hand sides and down the right-hand side? Now listen, ideally these players want to play regardless, right? And listen, if you're Noni Madueke, maybe learning how to play more down the left-hand side gives you more career future-proofness, especially as you hope to maintain your status now in the England squad. There will be a lot more openings down that left-hand side, down that right-hand side. So this is a detail that you can't necessarily ignore just like that. Now, in my opinion, if I had it my ways, I would have been happy to see Noni continue his development here for another season. I think he showed positive strides in terms of what he's doing off the ball. He's more of like a slow burner, but the flame is gradually getting a bit brighter and it's getting a bit hotter, in my opinion. Naturally, you think to yourself, though, if the club feel like there's a moment now to cash in on you, do you feel like maybe we're the best environment now for your career? These are the type of things that you have to discuss. But in terms of evaluation, I do think that it's kind of realistic to at least expect around 50 M's for Noni. I mean, he had a pretty decent season last season. Still rooms for improvement. Let's keep it real. But he is now an England player. He is playing more regularly for the national team. That would be interesting to see. If I was to just end my thoughts down this story before I move on, I've always seen Madueke as more of a wide forward. When he was at PSV, he had a lot of license to run towards goal, where he can take lots of his shots off. I feel like since he's come to Chelsea, he's been used more as like a touchline type of winger, instead of being that inside forward that can maybe play a bit closer towards goal. I still think that's his ultimate position. He had a pretty strong scoring rate at a very young age whilst at PSV. He is a big talent. Could we have done a bit more to utilize him tactically in that role? Maybe, but in the meantime now, it feels like the club feel like there's some clarity now behind how we're playing, what we're doing. We want the goal threat to come from your Palmers and your Enzos and more central positions. We want the wide threat to have more like supportive, carrying type of ability, which Noni has shown he can do. I think he's been one of our most consistent dribblers, but I guess Noni's sell might have to be forced, as it follows up to the next story right now. I did tell you guys before, I told you guys before that we are definitely looking at potentially moving Noni on to fund a move for someone else, right? And right now, my friends, I'm going to discuss the next story, and we discuss the latest on Mohamed Kudus. My friends, I told you guys, one of the key things behind securing a deal for Mohamed Kudus was going to be dependent on us funding a move for Madueke. And it's not even that we have to necessarily sell so we can buy. That's not what I'm saying. Kudus wants to come to Chelsea. He's excited for the move, but he wants to make sure he has certain guarantees in place, and that is the right flank. He's been tired of playing on the left flank at West Ham. He can do a job there, but not consistently. He wants to be more involved. He feels like coming in from the right-hand side allows him to be more involved in terms of having an influence in the game and with his team. And I think that's more than fair, yeah. When I saw Kudus absolutely steal the show in Qatar in the World Cup, the massive games against Portugal, this is how he can just change the game on its head. He's one of the most respected players in the league. In fact, I don't think he gets enough respect, but if you guys watch what ballers say about him, ballers are constantly talking about him being one of the most difficult opponents they face in the Prem, and that maybe he should have a bit more respect put on his name, which I more than agree with. Cole Palmer himself had his own statements to make about Mohamed Kudus, stating that he's one of the techiest players in the league, doesn't get enough motion on his name right now. And in terms of what we need as a team, right, I definitely feel like Kudus's personality, his dribbling threat, his skill set, these details is what we need to incorporate in our team to go to that next level right now. Now, the fact that Maresca and many people at the club are big fans is a positive omen. It's a positive omen for sure. I'm hoping we get this deal wrapped up. In terms of prices right now, West Ham know they aren't going to get 85 million. I think that's even common knowledge. I'm just literally repeating this news to you guys. At the moment, it seems like bids of around 70 million, and I can't tell you if that 70 million pounds or 70 million euros is enough to kickstart the conversation over a sell. Now, West Ham don't want to accept players directly as part of a deal to knock the overall price down. Ideally, they want to receive the full money up front, and for them 70 million is a fair fee in price because that incorporates some PSR gains for West Ham, which they need so they can reinvest, of course, into signing players. Now, we've not been opposed to making these PSR moves happen over the years. Look at last summer with the purchases of Kenan Dewsbury-Hall, Omari Kaliman, etc, etc. Could we do something similar in terms of offering Robert Sanchez as part of a deal right now? I think there's a possibility we can still sign a keeper. I'm going to tell you guys this right now. I've heard this news for the last 4 days. 5 days basically. I've not made a video on this because there isn't enough meat to really give much. This is just literally some bullet point type of headline thing you should just take in right now. But I have heard that we have been making soft inquiries and talks for Diogo Costa. I told you guys in the summer, Maresca asked for 2 goalkeepers. That was Mike Maignan or Diogo Costa. In my opinion, if you're not going to fund Costa, Having the money for Magnon, having the money for Costa is a bit mad to me, in my opinion. Especially when you have big Hobbs and a Mike Penders, right? And you think he's going to come big in the future. And you don't want to necessarily destroy any pathways into the team. So I think it would make more sense to target Magnon in the short term to get ready for Penders' takeover, right? But that's how I see things. That's what I've heard, you guys. That's everything I've heard. Nothing else on that news. So it'll be interesting to see if Robert Sanchez will be the key deciding factors behind the sale going over the line. But irrespective of that, man, I think we have to get this deal wrapped up. I think he is an upgrade signing, 100%. I think him and Cole Palmer can do special things together. I want to see a future next season where I'm seeing more rotations between my right winger and my attacking mid and Cole Palmer. Palmer wants to cook off the right sometimes to beat a man. You can't always do that in the middle. It's a different game. Kudus excels in carrying, creating threat, dribbles, danger in those central tight areas. I just think that these guys would complement each other like you would never understand. And this is probably one of the biggest signings we can make this summer. There's a possibility here because West Ham have already put him onto us saying that he's about. I don't think we can afford to flop this one, you guys. I really think that Kudus is the real deal. I don't care what West Ham fans are yapping about in terms of what he did last season. You guys were washed tactically, managerial wise, squad construction wise, all those details. You know, it's a naive thing for fans to think that top players can just single-handedly uplift the club on pure talent alone. It does not work like that. Imagine if you had Iniesta, for example, at West Ham last season. Do you think he'd be cooking the same way? No. Top players need other top players to play with. And as I told you guys before, Maresca feels like Kudus could be an output machine if he makes a move here and if he signs for us and if he is supported and playing around other top class players. So we need to make this happen. I'm excited for this news, my friends. Share your thoughts and opinions on Mohamed Kudus. I know that some people have maybe not reservations of their own thoughts and opinions on him. Let us know where you stand on things. And right now, let's now move on to the next story. And we're getting some slight positive news on Jamie Gittens. Now, this deal might not be as negative as it was once looking over the last, 24 to 36 hours. It does seem like Gittens could be getting his way. Dortmund know that they can't keep a player that isn't happy when he's already been promised a sale. I can't tell you what the final fee is going to be. We know that Dortmund raised their valuation last minute when we came close to matching the offer they've been asking for the entire time, which is around 60 million euros, around 50 million pounds. Do we in fact end up just matching their valuation, or do we find interesting bonuses and add-ons to take that deal over the line that does satisfy both parties? I guess both clubs don't want to look like they've lost out to each other, so hopefully there's a middle ground now to find a way to make something happen here right now, in my opinion. Yeah, I think Gittens is decent for what we need. The price, I guess right now, it's fair considering you didn't maybe negotiate to the best levels as you could have. I'm going to keep reiterating this. You can't start all the way down here and then come up all the way here, but just slightly off the valuation mark in the space of 24 hours, 48 hours. That doesn't reflect good in terms of what you're doing right now. Now, we know that their sporting director in Sebastian Kehl did actually come out to state that more conversations have happened over the last few days, and reiterating the same fact again that Gittens is a professional who knows how to perform. He has played in the Club World Cup. I can't tell you in the top of my head right now because I forgot if he could still register for us in this tournament if he's played for another team. But at the moment, there's a strong likelihood that this deal will be completed after the Club World Cup, which probably logically makes the most sense, right? So this gives us more time now to strike a fair and balanced deal, and optimism has grown now. Dortmund do need to sell. They do need to reinvest. They don't need a player that isn't in the plans of anyone right now when the player doesn't want to be here. So at least this is some positive news we can take forward surrounding our efforts to get Jamie Gittens. It's a shame that if we sign him in the end, we could have got him maybe for the same price before the Club World Cup. But if we can get him signed right after, which is going to be around like mid-July, then it's better than nothing, right? So my friends, I'm now going to end things by discussing the final reports. And we have some interesting updates on Kenan Yildiz of Juventus. My friends, at the moment, we're learning some interesting reports straight out from Italy, and they suggest that us and Arsenal have shown some interest in Kenan Yildiz. Now, at the same time, you know, the famous word you're going to read is monitoring, because there's a lot of monitoring in these types of deals. And I guess it makes sense for us to monitor, right? We don't know exactly if we're guaranteed to bag Gittens, even though I've just said it has grown in positivity and optimism. Yildiz has been a long-term target. I did discuss the story that was broken publicly, not by myself, suggesting that we had held talks with his agent and his family, but this is pretty cookie cutter in terms of how negotiations and deals work in the game, right? You have to come in early, you need to have these talks over a long time. It's not done exclusively through text and through WhatsApp messages, so that'll be interesting to see. Now, ideally, Juventus don't want to sell, but as the report says, there's valuations of 100 million they've placed on Yildiz. However, if offers came in the region of around 70 million euros, around 60 million pounds, that could at least kickstart some conversations around a potential exit. The thing with Yildiz is that he's not a no-sell. If the money is good, Juventus would consider, because that is pure profit they can use to reinvest heavily in improving their team, and dream options like Victor Osimhen and other players of that level do become viable opportunities for a Yildiz. Now, at the moment, Juventus have been working on increasing his contract extension by a year from 2030 to 2031, and essentially he will be earning more money as a lucrative option to entice the player to remain. He is seen as a big player at Juventus who they're more than happy to keep, and if clubs really want him, you really got to pay this money for him, yeah? That's the only way these things are going to work. I'm a big fan of Yildiz. I like him a lot. I'm curious though, is he more of like a inside forwards type of support striker compared to playing that classic winger role? Now, yes, he does receive the ball out wide a lot, but just because you receive the ball out wide doesn't mean that you're the same player. This is why I've never been a fan of talking about players in their shirt numbers, because actually you should talk about players in their roles. There's a difference between being a wide forward and a winger and a wing back and all these facets and details, right? And I do think that even though Yildiz can receive out wide, ideally, if you want to get the best out of him, if you're going to invest this money, right, you have to think about that, no? Ideally, give him that fullback that can also support and push forward. I would love to say that that could be Cucurella, who I think is very good at underlapping and overlapping. At the same time, I accept that young players as well, you're not going to get it your whole way in this game, right? You're kind of fortunate at times if a manager has the same vision for you in terms of how he's set to play you, and if that aligns with your best position as a player. If most players had that luxury, you'll be rating so many different players compared to the ones you're rating right now, but the game doesn't work like that. I guess there could be possibilities that Yildiz for sure could definitely be someone that could maybe adapt and do okay playing out wide. I kind of see him as like a better version of Garnacho, especially a much stronger dribbler as well. I think this guy is going to be a pretty special player this generation, and ideally, yeah, if I had a choice, a blank budget, he was one of my top options I'd probably have even over a Jamie Gittens. But listen, I can't imagine what the negotiations would be like to even try to buy this guy to begin with. There'll be lots of stress, but I don't know, man. I think the personality he's showing already as a kid, his game-changing ability, his height, his physical profile, there's a big potential in this kid, right? I'm hoping we learn more reports around this, but I kind of feel like they will only materialize if maybe things around Jamie Gittens do get a bit sour right now. So my friends, I'm going to wrap things up right now. That's everything today. Make sure you guys watch my other video where I share some concerns. It's not a negative rant video, it's concerns, and I don't know, I think there's an interesting conversation to have. Watch it in the suggested video below. So that's it, my friends. Catch you all soon. Love. Cool.